Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So we're very close to 3.7 and there's gonna be a thing called the Relic Recon event. The Relic Recon event is basically an event that gives you near perfect substats for any character that you choose. So you're no longer able to make the excuse that your relics are too bad and you can't do this clear or whatever. And I thought it was very interesting and I thought I wanted to make a video on it because some characters want relic substats more than other characters. And some characters have really weird relic sets where this event is like a big deal for them where it otherwise wouldn't be for a different character. Just as a note, this tier list is not gospel whatsoever. The thing about this event is that it's very dependent on how much you've already spent into your account. So for example, I am an aglaea main and I've spent like 30 fuel trying to get perfect relics for aglaea. And I'm nearly there that at most this event will probably just give me like 4 substat rolls that are higher. And that's not an efficient damage increase for aglaea. Even though it's nice, it's an upgrade, it probably isn't efficient over, let's say, I haven't built Cyrene yet. Something like that, right? So if your account already spent a lot on another character, even though they would be higher priority if you don't have any relics, because you already have the relics, that's going to matter a lot in what you're going to invest in with this event. There's going to be a few criteria in determining which characters need this event more than the others, right? So first of all, how many substat requirements does that character have? If they have more stats that are required, then obviously they will be ranked higher. Second, how high are those requirements? So even if they have only 2 requirements instead of 3, if that requirement is really high enough, then they will be ranked better, obviously. Next is the relic set domain. This one's a bit more complicated. Let's say you have a character that has a best in slot be the wind set. Now the wind set is a very powerful relic. It's best in slot for many characters, but because that domain is so bad, nobody wants to farm it despite the power of the wind set. This event gives you a chance to get the free wind set without having to go through the bad wind set domain, right? So it basically removes all of the pain from farming wind set while getting all of the positives from it. So that's good. The next is transferability. So if you farm Relic Recon for this unit, you might be able to put it on another character and be more efficient. If you are able to do that, that means this character would be ranked higher. And lastly, and I think the most important part, is the impact those substats have. For example, Aventurine. Aventurine technically has really high substat requirements because he can be built as a sub DPS, but Aventurine as a sub DPS at this point in the game is not something I can recommend. Like, feixiao makes up so much of the damage in Aventurine's teams that it really isn't worth investing those perfect relics into Aventurine when you could have invested them into feixiao or even Moza. So that's going to be a really big thing for this tier list. So first on the waist tier is Permanent Sorcerer. Permanent Sorcerer effectively has only one stat that he chases, speed, because the main stats for attack are generally high enough that you don't really care about getting speed substats anyway. I mean, you can build him for damage, but the thing is the impact, right? It's not going to be as big of an impact to get perfect relics, perfect damage relics actually, on Permanent Sorcerer than it is to get it on your carry. Next is Robin. Robin is much of the same as Permanent Sorcerer, but her speed requirement is so absurdly low that it's not really worth putting a perfect relic on. Like, Robin's speed requirement is 121, which is effectively like 5 speed substats. That is so easy to build, and because Robin uses Musketeer, you might naturally just get it from fighting Echo of War. No, I don't think Robin is a good recommendation. I think you're just wasting it if you put it on her. She also doesn't gain much from like crit damage or crit rate, so she might actually just be worse than Permanent Sorcerer. Next is Fu Xuan. Fu Xuan's best set is actually the healer set, funnily enough. But unlike the other healers that use the healer set, she uses HP percent, which sure is viable on the healers, but it's not better than outgoing healing for actual healers. At least she uses Lushaka, but overall I cannot recommend this unit for Relic Recon. I think you'd be wasting it, actually. And lastly, on the waist tier you have Luocha. Luocha is a speed hunter, basically. And because his healing is high enough at base, he doesn't really care about attack substats as much. So that's it for the waste tier, not very good candidates. The next tier is the don't recommend tier. These are characters that you will get something from their perfect relics, but I generally just do not recommend them because you might get them naturally or they're so low that it's not really worth it. First is Ceredra. Ceredra uses the very popular Sakurdo set, so you might just get it naturally. The toughest thing to build about Ceredra is like getting her to -1 speed with her DPS, which is pretty easy because Sakurdos already give speed. Next is Fugue. Fugue is a character that builds speed and effect hit rate. Usually break effect rope is enough for her to be good, so that doesn't really matter. I guess with E2 you start focusing on speed and break effect instead of effect hit rate, but either way, Fugue is a character that I don't really recommend because her best set is Thief, which is achievable by Echo of War, and you might just get it naturally or you just get it through the what is it called? Like the relic synthesizing thing? Yeah, that's what it's called. Next is Sunday. Sunday builds speed and crit damage, so it's not worthless to get perfect relics on him, but the thing is it's not really that difficult to build Sunday at the appropriate amount of speed, and it's not really difficult to get crit damage off of him either. And because his domain is so popular, because of Sunday actually, that you probably don't want to get perfect relics on it because you're just going to be farming it naturally on your off days anyway. Next is Aventurine. Aventurine is at least better than PT because he's a defense scaling shielder, so at least there's more characters that you can, transfer it onto. But again, like I said, it doesn't have a lot of impact on him. Like, you can build him sub DPS with crit rate and crit damage, but the thing is, the spread of damage these days just doesn't favor Aventurine at all. Next is Sparkle. I pretty much explained it with Sunday already. In terms of relics, they function pretty much the same. Next is Ron Mei. Ron Mei focuses on speed and break effect, so a lot like Fugue, and they have the same relics, so I'll put them at the same tier. Next is Huohuo. At least she has outgoing healing, unlike Fushuan, so she can put it on other healers. But I would suggest just synthesizing healer relic sets instead of absolutely focusing on them for perfect stats. And the only DPS in the lower tiers is Jingliu. Now, this is a very special one, because Jingliu is a character that has so much crit stats that building relics for her is so terribly easy, actually. Like, this is a character that gives you 50% crit rate at base and 300% crit damage. Yeah, rolling crit on this character doesn't matter at all. The only thing left for rolling relics on Jingliu is speed and HP percent. And that is very easy to achieve compared to other DPSs. She also uses Scholar, which is a pretty efficient domain that you might just get it naturally anyway. Okay, so we have the next tier, which is okay recommendations. These are mostly, again, characters that are DPSs that would really appreciate perfect relics. They don't have like an active handicap or anything, or have anything special in their stats that would make them go higher or lower. They're just kind of normal, right? So we have Evernight, Saber, Phynon, Anaxa, Castris, Mighty. Tribi is actually part of this because she builds double crit and she builds HP instead of speed tuning, so that's cool. You have Herta. Lingsha, if you want to use as a DPS, is actually quite viable. Even if you're not using her as a DPS, she does have pretty tough requirements in terms of healing with speed, attack, and break effect, so yeah, I would say she's an okay recommendation, even though she's quite niche at that. There's Yun Li, there's a Jade, Firefly, and Bootil have speed and break effect and attack investment, mostly speed and break effect. They're pretty easy, but because their domain is not as popular, the cavalry set, I would put them at a higher tier than Jingliu and stuff. Then you have Acheron, who also has a rare domain, but she's also double crit and stuff like that. Then you have Dr. Ratio, Argenti, Topaz, and Baritulune, Blade, and Jingyuan. These are characters that I would recommend and have more reasons to be recommended than the characters below them. So first is hysilens. The reason why I would put hysilens here is not because she scales off speed, attack, and effect hit rate, even though that's very important. It's very important to speed tune your hysilens pretty well. The reason that I put her here is because she uses Prisoner. Prisoner is not a very efficient domain in 2025 because there's not that many meta characters that use it still. And also, hysilens' teams, she uses either Cypher, Tribi, and she doesn't even use Black Swan anymore unless you just have her. And Black Swan hasn't rerun in a year, so chances are you probably don't even have her. And if you do have Black Swan, you probably already farmed enough for hysilens anyway that it doesn't matter. But anyway, putting all of that aside, hysilens' relic domain is not very efficient. Kafka uses Winston instead of Prisoner. She's the only one that uses Prisoner set in her teams, unless you're using Black Swan. But again, if you're a veteran, you already have the relics for it, so it doesn't matter. So I would put hysilens at highly recommended because her domain just kinda sucks. Next is Archer. So why is Archer here even though he's a character that only relies on crit rate, crit damage, and he doesn't even build speed for speed tuning? Well, here's the deal with Archer. He's a character that has very few hits on his abilities. His skill literally has one. So if you miss that crit, it's going to be really punishing. So you want Archer to be built at a much more difficult 100% crit rate, but also, his best set is the Quantum set. Now the Quantum set is a really good set, but the problem with that set is that the domain is absolutely terrible. So to wrap it up with Archer, his substat requirements are much higher than the regular unit because he wants 100% crit rate because of his low hit count. His relic set domain is really bad despite the set being really powerful. And again, that set is powerful because it's so transferable and it has such a powerful effect. So impact, check. Transferability, check. Domain, check. High requirements, check. I think that puts Archer at a pretty comfortable, highly recommended tier. Next is Cypher. This is a weird one, isn't it? Cypher is very good because he either has the Wind set or the Quantum set that you can put on a DPS. In addition to that, Cypher uses Lushaka, which is one of the best Harmony sets. So you just have a good support set with either a good DPS set or another good Nihility set. Next is Rappa. Rappa is put higher here than the other Break characters because her domain is pretty bad, but she also has much tougher stat requirements than Bootil and Firefly. She scales off attack, a break effect, and speed. So all three stats are important, and if you manage to get Relic Recon for Rappa, then you also get relics for Bootil and Firefly, which is a pretty big deal because you can't have two Super Break teams. It's actually impossible to do so because they rely so much on each other. So even if you're not using it on Rappa, you'll use it on Firefly and Bootil if you have them on the same account. feixiao is a character that wants crit rate, crit damage, and speed, and these days she wants as much speed as she can get. She also uses the Wind set. So she has 3 substat requirements that are pretty tough. Her relic set domain is really bad, and it's transferable. The Wind set is very transferable. And also the impact of those substats are really high because she's a DPS. So yeah, just a great recommendation overall. I highly recommend it. Next is Jiao Cho. Jiao Cho is in here for the similar reasons as Cypher has. He uses the Wind set and mostly focuses on speed, and he also uses Lushaka. So just a good combination of stats for a unit to be with. I think it's actually worth farming his relic set combination. Next is Black Swan, same reasons as hysilens basically. Next is Kafka, same reasons as both Cypher and Jiao Cho. She's a Lushaka and a Wind set holder. And lastly, for this tier is Hyacine. Now, why is Hyacine here? Now, if you want Hyacine to just be usable, she only really needs speed and HP percent. And HP percent is really not mandatory. You just build speed to like 190 and that's fine. But the main difference between a good Hyacine and a usable Hyacine is the crit damage stat. And once you tackle in speed, HP, and crit damage, building Hyacine gets really difficult. And unlike, let's say, Aventurine, building Hyacine for damage stats is actually quite impactful because she doesn't get a lot of crit damage herself. And generally, Hyacine's damage is much more important for the team than Aventurine's is. If the time comes that you want to use another healer instead of Hyacine, then you'll just put those relics on that healer. Like let's say Huohuo. Even if the crit damage is wasted, that's fine. So that's it for the highly recommended tier. Now we go on to the top recommended tier, because these characters either have such torturous stat requirements or their relic set is so inefficiently bad in combination to having really tough stat requirements, right? So the first character, and I genuinely think this event was made for her, is Cyrene. Cyrene builds so much speed that even if you are just focusing on getting speed, you're probably just going to throw the Relic Recon event at her. So if you are pulling for Cyrene, please just use the Relic Recon event on her. Her domain is so new that you probably... I would bet that you probably don't even have good relics on her just yet. And if you're building Cyrene for damage, it gets a lot worse, because she scales now on speed, HP, crit rate, and crit damage. It's just really bad. And unlike most supports, her damage contribution really matters a lot, so you're gonna be building those stats one way or the other, man. Anyway, how many substat requirements does Cyrene have? Yes. How high are those requirements? Yes. Her relic set domain? It's new? Yes. Her transferability? Actually, her transferability is pretty bad. The relics that you're going to be using on Cyrene probably won't get used anywhere else. So, and in terms of substats impact, it can either be really high or damn near irreplaceable to replicate. So yeah, this is the perfect character to put in the top recommended tier. The next is Aglaea. Aglaea builds speed, crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent is also not that bad for her. She is a character that is not really helping herself either. At least with Blade and other characters like Fanon, they give themselves all the crit rate and crit damage, right? Well, Aglaea doesn't do any favors for herself and really wants a lot of crit rate, crit damage, and speed. And again, she has very tight speed tuning requirements too. If you do have Aglaea on your account, I recommend getting Relic Recon for her. That being said, Aglaea has been out for a while. So if you're someone like me that was a day one Aglaea main, the upgrade that you're probably going to get for Relic Recon is not a lot. So just keep that in mind. Her domain is also not that bad, it's fairly popular, but the set itself is only usable on her, so it doesn't have a lot of transferability. Overall, if you're a day one Aglaea main, I wouldn't really recommend it because you probably spent enough relics on her. But if you're a fairly new Aglaea main, I think this is a top recommendation, absolutely. And we have the last three characters here. This is weird. Let's address the elephant in the room. All of these characters want Quantum Set, but unlike Archer, they have much more torturous stat requirements that it's pretty worth it. First is Shui. Shui scales off speed, crit rate, crit damage, break effect, and attack. He has the Quantum Set, so there's a lot of transferability, and this is a character that is really difficult to build. If you're a Shui main, like, you know, there's 5 of you left, then this is probably the best way to get more Shui relics. But yeah, there's a reason why she's the only 4-star character here, because her build requirements are just absolutely absurd. Next is Zila. Zila scales really well with perfect relics. I would say that Zila is probably the character that scales the most out of relics actually, just because of her one-shot capability. It's like Archer on crack. You want 100% crit rate and as much crit damage as you could get to get that one shot. And because she's a quantum crit scaler, she uses the Quantum Set, which again is a very transferable relic domain. If you're a Zila main, you know exactly how much impact it is to have perfect relics on her. Like, the entire basis of Zila's still zero cycling Anom arbitration relies on her getting perfect relics. So you know how impactful this is, right? And lastly, you got Silverwolf. Silverwolf scales off speed, effect hit rate, crit rate and crit damage, and I guess attack too. But mostly speed, double crit, and effect hit rate. So she has a pretty bad domain, a very transferable set, and it actually is quite impactful. Like, compared to Cypher, Cypher's personal damage is not that impactful, but for Silverwolf it is. A lot of Silverwolf's main qualities when you put on their team is first of all the implant, but also if you're running someone like Archer, for example, who's a single target DPS, using Silverwolf's ult to soften up enemies in AoE just enough for Archer to get a one-shot is very impactful. Just because of how hard it is to build DPS Silverwolf, and it's actually quite impactful, I think it's actually a top recommended. So yeah, that's the Relic Recon event tier list. I hope you guys like this video. This took a while to record. I'm in the middle of night sweating as I'm recording this, but yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the algorithm stuff, and I'll see you later. This might change with the release of Constance, so do be aware of that. I might change this like 12 hours after I post this video. But anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye. Thanks for my members. Please join my membership. Bye bye.